Hello, hello. It's been a while since I made a YouTube video, so I figured I would show what I've been doing for updates for Rogue Tank. So I remade some of the Steam page stuff. We have new screenshots, a new trailer. Redid a lot of the artwork for the Steam page, and we'll take a look here. So what I want to do is we'll take a look at the old game. This was from the update previous. There's just a couple things I want to point out about what we have here. So take a look. We have all these HPP files, all these CPP files, and even though they're in folders, it's pretty chaotic mess in here. Like Window has all this stuff going on. I mean, it goes for a while to there. So I was talking to a friend. I go to college with him at Ferris State University, and he was showing me a different way to code. So if we look here in these HPP files, I make classes, and that is the main thing. These are all different classes, and some of this collision code I borrowed from a YouTuber. And that's all it is. It's, you call your class and use the functions inside of it. So like over here in main, I have a class called Windows Levels. We give it a name and we point to title screen, so on and so forth. However, he showed me a different way, and at first when I was learning this, I was very apprehensive. I did not like a lot of what it had. However, I did find some beauty in it, and eventually I figured out it's way better and for something like this. So load this up. Notice we only have these 5 files, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for headers. 2 of them are HPPs. This is the tile map loader that I borrowed from a YouTuber. Here, I'll show you this YouTuber. I might as well. He deserves the credit for that. Let's see. Wonder if I subscribe to him or if I misplaced it. Well, what we'll do is we'll click this. Yep. So this guy, he wrote a so that video, okay. Yep. So this guy, he wrote a XML parser that turns that data it reads into a readable texture for SFML. I watched his video, copied it, and I've been using that method for these two, and I've had that for every update for a very long time now, since April. However, for main now, we just have a namespace and a function calling splash screen, and inside of game loop, this is kind of how I have the data structured. So we have namespace struct, some functions, and this is the main game loop as it is defined. And similarly here, namespace structs. So instead of classes, I'm actually just using straight up structures, and to kind of keep things tidy, having them in an entity. So let's take a look here at like player, for example. Player has some data that we keep track of, and two functions, an init and an update. Similarly, enemy has some data to keep a track of, an init, a drop item, and update. That way, inside of game loop, inside of the loop part, I can call a lot of the stuff that's happening for mainly gameplay stuff. On trigger is kind of like Unity in a way, like on trigger enter, on trigger exit type of stuff. This is a form of collision. And instead of using the collision code that I used to use, I'm actually just using the gig global bounce and intersects. It seems to work pretty well. So let's say we go to update. Update's just calling loop, trigger, and check collision. Inside of struct game, we actually go here into entity, and we call each one of these structures inside of game and give it data. We give the structure game data filled with entities and some other various data that's needed. That way, inside of these functions, when we use game as a parameter, and it is a referenced parameter, we can then call game.healthpack or swarm or player or however have you that you want to do, and it's all very tidy, and it works better. So one little thing I'll show off here. If we go to the old game, let it load up, put it in debug mode, hit play. So notice the compilation time, it's still going, right? Like it's got to compile all these CPP and header files, and then it loads up, we're in, and notice sometimes I hit a guy and he doesn't necessarily disappear, but sometimes I hit a different guy and he does disappear. Like right there, a whole ton disappeared, and it's pretty glitchy. But that's due to the code not functioning properly, not necessarily because of organization, but just a fundamental misunderstanding of how to go about it. With that said, the one key feature about organizing your code using namespaces and structures is it keeps things pretty tidy to the point that it's easier to find bugs like that. So let's kind of show that off here. So notice when I hit an enemy, that enemy that I target disappears and nothing else. Now this is extremely useful because it makes for more solid gameplay. And I made the bubble shield more of a player choice. It is limited, so if you push and hold it for a while, eventually it will it'll go down, and then you're on a cooldown where you cannot actually use it until your cooldown timer cools down fully. But yeah, this was a good learning lesson. mainly when someone gives you constructive criticism on your code. It may at first seem like your way is the better way. And if you're an experienced coder, maybe it is. However, for someone like me, it's many times not so much. And I'm glad I listened to what he was saying, because the code runs a lot smoother, a lot easier to debug, and more organized, a lot easier to add to. But yeah, check out Rogue Tank, free to play. It's got a little puzzle system to it, and I'm going to continue adding to this over time and make a full game out of it. Thanks for checking it out.